goes under the moniker Dayglow, and in a short time, Sloan has amassed more than 5 million Spotify plays of Dayglow's danceable pop songs. In the interview, conducted a few weeks ago, Evie speaks with Sloan about how he began recording music in his hometown of Aledo, Texas, what it's like being a student and a celebrated professional musician at the same time, and we'll learn about the album he's currently recording and what it may sound like. You may even hear me squeeze in one question to Sloan. So let's get started.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to start off and say that being a UT student myself, I've been listening to your music for a couple of years now, so it's a real pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm stoked.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just dive right on into the questions. So before moving off to college and then going on tour across America, you grew up in the small town of Aledo, Texas. What was life growing up in Aledo, Texas? What kind of things would you do for fun as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like, stereotypes that are true about, like, small Texas towns. So, like, Aledo, for example, I think the high school in Aledo won state football, like, 8 years in a row or something. So definitely, like, Friday Night Lights vibes. Which I didn't really partake in because I didn't have much of an interest in football. But I would say, like, the general majority of people would just, like, I don't know, like just focus on, like, football and, like, driving around or something. But for me personally, I just, like, kind of shut myself in my room and just learned how to make music pretty much all the time. So I do the same thing here in Austin, but I feel like I'm surrounded by more like-minded people. I mean, Aledo's great. You know, there's definitely a charm in small Texas towns, but everything's got its pros and cons.
Yeah, because you started making music at a fairly young age due to your parents' encouragement and just, like, the environment of your parents being, like, singers themselves. What kind of influence did they have on you when you were learning how to make your own music?
Yeah, so, like, both of my parents met through singing. It's kind of like a long story, but they were both, like, on this country music show, and they sang at church. And so I was kind of around, like, singing, but they had actually had a fair share of friends, like, try to make it in the music industry, and not really, like, succeed. And so I would say their influence was more, like, cautionary than, like, influential, to be honest. Like, they were really, like, cautious about me doing it, but, like, I was pretty persistent, and it was obvious that, like, all I cared about and wanted to do is make music. And I think recently they've really started to realize that, and yeah, I don't know. I definitely, like, in my blood got my talent from them, but as far as making music, it's all been a self-discovery, just like watching YouTube, you know.
Sloan, I got a quick question. What was your first instrument that you started with, and was your first instrument self-taught, or was it through, like, middle school or high school band, or?
So my first instrument was the acoustic guitar. When I was, like, 9 or 10, I got I went to, like, maybe 3 or 4 guitar lessons at my church. And I just didn't like it. I wanted to learn some rock and roll, or at least what I thought rock and roll was at the time. And so the way I did that was through YouTube. But I honestly went through a phase where I was like, I don't even want to play the real Guitar Hero, or guitar, like, Guitar Hero is good enough for me. So yeah, I just played Guitar Hero for a while, you know, age 10. But then I realized I wanted to make my own music and kind of learn from YouTube that way. So it's mostly self-taught, but yeah.
In your most recent YouTube video series, you've been filming step-by-step inside looks into how you make songs off of Fuzzy Brain in your own bedroom. Which, by the way, these videos are so entertaining. The editing is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
In your video, you're welcome. In the video for How I Made Can I Call You Tonight, you had said even though the song may have sounded simple, it actually took you 46 different mixes and messing around with layers and vocals. Is an at-home recording style something you want to continue incorporating in your future music?
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of like a rare breed in like the music industry. A lot of people don't really like mixing, that process where you're just kind of like making finite edits on the music, you know. But I love it. Like I think my strongest passion in music is like the art of making it and producing it. And so I am for this next record continuing to mix on my own and write and be self-sufficient. And I think, you know, as far as I see the future, I would love to keep mixing and recording my own music and maybe even doing that for other people.
On the Texas Music Mixtape program, you're hearing an interview with the Austin via Aledo, Texas based artist Sloan Struble. Sloan records under the moniker Dayglow, and let's listen to a little bit of the song Can I Call You Tonight. It is the song that Evie was just referring to that took layers and layers of guitars and other instruments to record. The song actually has over 30 million YouTube plays and over 110 million Spotify plays.
Well, I've got a quick question too, but a follow-up to that is for all our gear nerds that listen to the show, what digital audio recording platforms or decks do you like to work in?
Yeah, so I work in Logic, which is basically just like the big brother of GarageBand, because I started out with GarageBand, and that's where I like really learned how things work. But with Fuzzy Brain, for the most part, it was just using Logic, and I didn't have any outboard gear or anything. Like, I just had some pretty cheap monitors, and I used all of Logic's like free stock plugins, and just, I mean, spent a lot of hours, but not a lot of money on making the record. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, nice. Next question. In your Spotify playlist, Feelings That Inspired Fuzzy Brain, you draw from indie rock artists such as Mac DeMarco and the Vampire Weekend, as well as like classic funk and soul artists such as Kool and the Gang and Earth, Wind and Fire. Are there any other artists that you've been inspired by recently when creating new music?
Definitely. Yeah. So I would say this next record is much more like Earth, Wind and Fire inspired. I've been really into like Michael McDonald and like the Doobie Brothers and just that whole general like area of yacht rock / like disco, like where music meets in the middle, where it's like not too like dad music, but like fun. Yeah, I've been pretty much strictly listening to that, for better or for worse. I'm trying to like get back into just like normal listening, what everybody else is. But yeah, I don't know. I just love that whole like Bruce Hornsby or like Christopher Cross, like that whole 80s world I've been deep into.
I was just thinking that when you mentioned yacht rock, like maybe it would be possible since Christopher Cross lives in Austin, maybe you guys could collaborate on something.
That would be dope. I actually didn't know he lives in Austin.
Yeah, he's lived in Austin for like pretty much going back like 30, 40 years.
Whoa.
So, but he said the bad news is that he got coronavirus and he got a really bad case of it, and
oh no.
He couldn't walk for he lost the ability to walk for and like muscle control for quite a while, but I've been following his social media, and he said that he now can play guitar again, and he's walking again, so he's going through physical rehab, so he's on the mend. So definitely,
yeah, oh my gosh,
definitely possible.
Yeah, man, well, I'm glad he's doing better. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Texas Music Mixtape on KOOP Radio, Austin's community radio. We're in the middle of an interview with Dayglow's Sloan Struble. Let's jump right back into that interview with Sloan.
In an interview with Austin Radio KUTX, you said Dayglow is maturing just as much as you are maturing. How would you say you were maturing and growing as an artist during a time where doing shows and playing live isn't a possibility right now?
Good question. Yeah, I'm actually in Austin. I'm like living on my own for the first time. So that in and of itself is just like a learning process. But it's been definitely like a mind warp because I was pre-planning for this year to be like probably the busiest year of my life. And it's really strange that like it's definitely not. I mean, I've been really blessed to have a career where like I'm still like really busy, like working on this next record. So like I have a schedule like every day on something I can do. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, really, I feel like all of the world is just going through a growth phase, which is really good, but also really hard. But yeah, it's just a strange year in general. And I think strange years kind of have to happen in order to grow. But I guess we'll have to wait and see a couple years down the line to see how we all grew through this. But I definitely see a lot of change happening.
Definitely. I'm sure right now you've been able to spend a lot of time, listening to those inspirations for your next album and really kind of like focusing on the creative process during all of this. Mm-hmm. Is there a timeline for how long it usually takes you to write songs or an album? Does it come pretty like in a flow, or is it more spontaneous with ideas that just pop in your head?
Yeah, I mean, for the past like 2 months, I haven't really been writing as much because I'm just like in the mixing process of getting a lot of these songs in their final form. But yeah, some of these songs are kind of old. Like I wrote during Fuzzy Brain, but I didn't really feel like they fit the album. What differentiates this album from Fuzzy Brain is this one from the beginning was like intentionally conceptualized. Like I knew this is going to be an album. With Fuzzy Brain, it was like my first record, and I just kind of threw it together. And I feel like it is concise. Like it all makes sense in a record. But this one definitely much so, like has a theme and I think like has a climax, and because I just love albums that like tie in together and kind of share like one big story. And so with this record, I'm really trying to do that. So I've kind of like written songs with like the other songs in mind. So it's been really fun. I'm really excited to share it.
Mm-hmm. Similar to your songwriting process, in previous interviews, you have said that as much as your music is uplifting and positive, it's equally as deep and meaningful. What motivates you to send these types of messages in your music that are just equally as like fun and danceable, but very impactful for people that are listening?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought, like, my goal would be to help people, like, process their emotions, you know, like, that's kind of what art is supposed to do. Like, it's kind of in the hands of the artist to, like, help people understand what they're going through. And for me, like, I'm a generally optimistic person, but I'm definitely not, like, always excited or, like, always happy. And so I feel like typically when music is happy, it's kind of synonymous with, like, being ignorant. Like, oh, I'm just going to, like, shut out the world and, like, listen to happy music. And I don't want my music to feel like that. You know, like, I still want to address and talk about things that are hard that, you know, I'm going through or someone else is going through, but still have, like, hope in the underlying message. Because I do think things will eventually get better. But, yeah, I think it's just important for artists to realize that, you know, it's, like, it's an important thing to make art. And, like, it really matters what music you listen to. So I'd like to be an artist that, like, helps people positively process their emotions.
I'd say hope is a huge thing for, I mean, younger teens in high school and also people my age in college that listen to your music. Your story as an artist, using your platform as, like, to show other, like, young people that music can be an outlet for emotions that can be hard to process at such a defining age is huge. So what would you say to any teen who is looking to gain the confidence to make their own music?
I would say for other aspiring musicians, just have fun. I think the most fun and the most therapeutic music is going to be is when you're making it, like, for yourself. Not in, like, a selfish way, but really at the end of the day, music is art, and art's just supposed to be, like, a reflection of someone's, like, ideas. And so I think music kind of gets complex, like, with that. Like, there's so much attached to, like, being a musical artist opposed to, like, being a painter. Like, painters, it's like, oh, that's their art, and, like, they're just doing their own thing. But music kind of has this other attached stuff to it that I don't really necessarily think it needs to be. I don't know if that makes sense. But, yeah, I think my advice to people making music is, like, just have fun. And, you know, crazy things happen on the internet. Like, I definitely didn't think I would be being interviewed right now and, like, talking about my music. Like, at the end of the day, I'm just having fun, and I think that's what music is all about.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. That's a very positive message to send out to people that are definitely looking to, like, make their own art.
Hey everybody, if you're just tuning in, you caught the tail end of our interview with Sloan Struble of Dayglow, the bedroom pop artist that started out in Aledo, Texas, came to Austin to attend UT, and then his band Dayglow went viral on the internet, and now he is one of the most popular bedroom artists in the world. Big thank you, of course, to Spring 2020 TMO intern Evie McNeil. Evie conducted that interview and did it like a pro, and so we really appreciate having her volunteer at KOOP here and help with the Texas Music Mixtape program.